On this episode, we throw in CV axles into Zen so we can bank shift it and stop breaking stuff.
It's good.
It's so good! Zen is getting legitimate axles. That's the hope, at least.
It needed them. If anything needed axles, this car needs axles.
Yes, it does.
Let's talk about this stuff.
Oh, this stuff is gorgeous. And our fingers are crossed that it actually installs. Let me tell you the history that I have with Drive Shaft Shop. So I met those guys at PRI last year when we were building Zen. And I told them the plan for the car and that I wanted to put really good axles in it. But then we got so intense with the build, the timing got down to so close that we just didn't end up having the time. As willing and ready as Drive Shaft Shop was to work with us, which was great. Drive Shaft Shop, Drive Shaft Shop, Drive Shaft Shop, Drive Shaft Shop. We just didn't have it in us to start tearing into all that, and pretty much just wanted to throw suspension on it and hit the road. So we are really excited to be upgrading this part of the car because it's the weak link from what we found.
It's more weak than I thought it was. You know, I'd driven this car for, I don't know, a couple of years daily driving it, and I beat the snot out of it with the factory engine, which was less than 200 horsepower. Everyone said, you're gonna have to change those stub axles, it's not gonna work. Or are they called stub? I don't know what. This car has
Like half shafts.
they're half shafts, that's what they are. I understand it needs to be done, but it's probably not as extreme as everyone's saying because people blow so much stuff out of proportion. I was wrong. They were completely right. And so I tried to drive the car the way that I used to with 200 horsepower, and it was not liking it. How many axles did we lose?
Well,
I feel
so
like
we
4.
never really broke the axle itself. The U-joints would just twist.
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact,
And so
I think
we
I have one
killed, I want to say 4 U-joints. We had 4 different casualties on the side of the road.
here. Right. So you can see here, we'll get a close-in shot of it. This is what happens.
I'll zoom in.
So it has 4 of these, and it says made in the USA right there, so you know it's good, but not good enough. So this was the problem. You basically had a little tiny drive shaft on each side that had 2 of these, you know, one at the wheel and then one back at the third member. I would drop the clutch at 3,000 RPM, and first gear usually did pretty good, but when I would go into second gear, it just destroyed these things. You can see that is being replaced by this giant CV knuckle. My feeling is there's gonna be something else that breaks before these axles do.
When we were ready to do this upgrade on the car, I shot Drive Shaft Shop another email and was like, okay, I'm ready to do this. Power Tour is coming up and we need to upgrade these rear axles because they're dying rapidly. So we looked on their website first so that I could just tell them exactly what we wanted. And it was kind of confusing because I'll read you guys what the product is that they have. It says it's for a Datsun 510 or a 240Z with the Subaru R180 diff, and it's a 108 millimeter CV conversion kit with 108 millimeter flanges. And then it says this set of axles replaces the factory U-joint style axle shaft with a CV type axle using 6-bolt Porsche style 108 millimeter CV joints on both ends. The kit includes 2 rear axles, 2 billet conversion plates, and all necessary mounting hardware.
But here's the problem. This is not a 240Z, this is a 280Z, and this is not an R180, it's an R200.
Yeah, so I shot them an email and I said, guys, will it work on the 280Z? And they asked for a bunch of measurements, which was the length of the shaft at ride height and the bolt pattern. They knew it was 4 bolts, but they didn't know how the bolts were spaced. And so we sent them a bunch of measurements and they said, this kit should work on it. So it arrived here And we cannot wait to try it. Hopefully we can bolt this thing up and go rip roar and do really high RPM clutch drops.
It's my favorite.
Let's get to work, dude.
Let's get to work. By work, I mean you take that axle out and I will hold the camera. I wasn't scared at all. Not even a little bit.
You didn't even flinch.
Yeah, I did actually.
What's your plan here?
Good job getting the axle out. I just wanted to see if it's going to be even close to fitting before we get too busy.
Lengthwise?
Yeah. So that's got like a lot of movement there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's like a rule. Obviously, you don't want to like impact it into it because that's got to move. We'll pull it like halfway out. And this one does the same thing. It moves. So where does it naturally want to rest at? Right there.
It looks much longer to me.
It does, which is good because we have these brackets.
Right, the
So-
adapters.
Adapters, that's a much better way to say it. So that is 15 3/4. This is 16 1/4. This has a lot of movement on it too. So if we stretch that out, so this one's stretched out at 16 1/4. Let me measure this one.
But that's not ride height. That's
Oh,
extended.
That's very true. 16 1/4. So we have an inch. When this is fully compressed, we've got an inch for it to come out. I can't think of any reason that won't work. The only other thing in question is the adapter going to bolt to our yokes?
Right.
And I bet it does. That's going to be so friggin' awesome if it works.
Oh, dude. It's got this nice flange. Okay, so these adapters are pretty sick. This flange right here sets right into where that stub axle goes, and it just makes it really solid in there. So that's going to be good once it's bolted up.
We've got this little axle that we pulled out and we have to bolt this adapter to it. In the kit they sent these locking nuts. This nut's going to be way too thick. It's going to end up actually hitting the rear end housing and the bolt's going to be too long. However, I did go buy some different nuts and they're a really thin nut. What we're going to do is put those on with a little bit of Loctite, tighten them down good, and then we're going to cut off whatever's left over on these studs that are coming through. There's like a little raised area here and that nut has to squeeze down beside it, and I'm really not liking it. It's got it kind of at an angle. So what I'm going to do is throw all these nuts on the bench grinder and just take a little bit off that edge. That way it fits down really smooth and flush. We took one of the flat sides of this nut and just ground off just a tiny bit, and they're going in perfect now.
This is looking really hopeful. I thought that that was an awesome customization that Aaron did. Ran and got those lower profile nuts, sheared off the end of the bolt so that there was clearance. I think this may work. It's gonna be really awesome. I hope that it does, because I want other 280Z guys to be able to run this.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe Drive Shaft Shop will go, okay, maybe we'll make a kit with specific bolts. Who knows?
Got a snap ring in there that holds these axles in. Doesn't look like it's binding on anything.
That looks so good.
I can't wait. Put it in there. I don't know if it's gonna fit, man.
Babe,
I'm digging it.
it's a beauty.
I'm showing my Instagram friends that their axles in.
They're almost in. Bolts are being started at least. They look so freaking awesome in here. Zen is so happy right now.
Yep. So excited. We're gonna find the next weakest link very soon.
That's right.
Well, that's pretty close to that lower control arm there. I don't know about that. We'll just get them tight and see. Might have to clearance that a little bit.
Oh, ninja moves. Two are tight on the diff side. Most of the hub side are tight.
Man, that's close.
That's real close.
That's gonna be a
Come
problem.
look at this, y'all.
It's not hitting, but it's going to the minute that we put pressure on it.
It's not touching it, but dude, is it ever close.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pop this other half shaft out and see how the clearance is on this side once we get that CV axle in. Yay!
Goodbye.
Okay, we watched Aaron do this
Now let's see me do it. The first thing we're gonna do is beat this dust shield off, and then we'll flip this stub shaft over and beat the studs out of it. We can get our longer bolts in there and freaking bolt these CV axles on and hope that they work. There we go. Next up is to install our adapter onto this guy. Okay. Sweet. Looks good. Hub side adapter is going on. Axle's totally bolted up. Now we're gonna start looking at clearance. One of the things that we wanna look at is where it hits when it's under load. So we're gonna take our transmission jack, a little lift on this situation.
Still clearing.
It clears, but man, is it close.
I really feel like I can just take some of that metal off
Yeah, I
there.
was gonna say, it's kind of like that little flange that
And
sticks up.
I guess next step is going to be take these 2 bolts out, and then we'll just let these control arms swing down, leave them on the car, and we'll just clearance them when they're hanging down like this. I believe that's going to work.
It is CV axle test day, and coincidentally, it's the day before we leave on power tour. We're crazy. We've been overwhelmed with working on Max's car, doing a vintage air kit on it, and doing a full episode transmission swap on James's truck, Gen A. So, this car has been sitting, waiting patiently. We pulled it out of the shop and pulled it back in for rain, but now we're actually gonna go drive it, and I don't know, Aaron's on the other side of the camera. Aaron, are you gonna hammer on it and try and break it the day before we leave?
I have no interest in breaking it the day before we leave. Probably get on it some. Honestly, if I never get on it the whole trip, at least we'll make the trip.
Agreed.
The car digs really hard, so if it's going to rub, it's probably going to do it on things. This is a problem.
This is a problem.
Shimmy, 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 shimmy.
Because we needed to leave the next day, we just decided to rotate the tires and throw that shimmy to the back. Loaded everyone up the next morning and headed out for Hot Rod Power Tour 2018. We definitely didn't baby the car, as you can see here when we passed through Mexico. But eventually that shimmy had to rear its ugly face and show us that we weren't quite as set as we thought we were. But it wouldn't be Power Tour without a little roadside wrenching.
We got a vibration in one of our wheels or tires or something, and it caused the axle bolts to loosen up.
Right after this video, I broke the news to him that we had lost 3 out of the 4 nuts and bolts that held the adapter onto that mini stub shaft that goes into the diff. So we were so funny with fresh nuts and bolts on the side of the road, filing down one edge of the nut so that we could get them tightened down well with fresh Loctite so we could get back on the road. Huge thanks to all of our friends that were there to help us. This is what Power Tour is all about. And of course, the burnouts. Some even encouraged by the local sheriffs. We had so much fun on this trip. Thanks to Hot Rod, I did that awesome burnout. And we met so many fans too, and so many supporters of the channel. Cannot thank you guys enough. Think he'll break it? Hope not.
I'm going to try. She hits hard, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely not that hard on the car. She's taking the abuse from you like a champ.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Well, the axles held strong and we didn't find the next weakest link, but I bet you can watch for that on an upcoming episode. Be sure to like and comment and subscribe for more of our adventures here on YouTube. See you next time.